Randall Keith Beane is currently in federal prison serving time for alleged fraud. The court, jury, and judge Thomas Farland of the Eastern District of Tennessee was allegedly corrupt. He has been denied his due process, was badly beaten at his arrest, all to make an example out of him and other free people. Beane and many others, including myself, bought into the so-called investigation by Heather Tucci-Jarraf, and the investigation which supported the supposed conspiracy theory that the government is an artificial entity who has been caught operating under the Uniform Commercial Code and not the Constitution, and that the courts operate under the law of the sea, not common law or the law of the land. The government has been caught using our Social Security numbers for collateral to borrow money on our behalf and use it because they claim we are slaves of the Rothschilds, bankers, and other elites. The premise, which was put forward by many YouTubers, Judge Anna Von Reitz, and others, was that we could reclaim our accounts, which is money that is rightfully ours. Harvey Dent published a video showing people how they could pay bills using the Federal Reserve routing number. The letter on the back coordinated with the Federal Reserve routing number listed on many sites. Greetings, everyone. I'm going to try and keep this video under 15 minutes. If you need to slow down or speed up the video, you can change the playback speed by hitting the settings button at the top right of the screen. Many people have asked about the status of the Heather Ann Tucci-Jarraf and Randall Beane case. This is an update to the situation. Heather was allegedly released on probation in January 2022 in Washington State, and Randy was sentenced to 12 years and has served around 6 or 7. He hasn't heard from Heather since the sentencing, which seems odd since she was so vocal about the movement. If anyone has heard from Heather or her so-called team, please let us know in the comments, as we'd be grateful to hear about it. During the trial, the government and news incorrectly labeled the two as members of the sovereign citizens movement to invoke discrimination against them. Randy has said the term sovereign citizens is an oxymoron, and I have to say I agree. You can't be sovereign and a citizen. He questions whether the jury pools were corrupt. I feel the judge is corrupt. The court reporter was hired by the court, and I'm unsure what the transcripts say. This is a recording of a conversation I had with Randy recently.
Sitting in prison, this is going on 7 years now. Anything that it just seems it sparked hope again that I thought.
Gosh, I didn't realize it had been 7 years. It just, time has flown by. you know?
Yeah.
I can't even imagine what you're going through, though. I mean, it just seems unreal to me. Just
mentioned in your email about, brainstorming. I have been working diligently to counsel, and I was pro se, so it really looks.
This call is from a federal prison.
It looks bad on me to file an appeal when I was counsel on the case. But then the original case said I didn't use my Social Security number. This is so many contradictory in this case. The major claim in this situation is that versus Randall Keith Beane, but yet there's a victim of USAA Bank, which never has made any sense because there's no affidavit and no claim filed by anyone. I don't understand how a case can be brought in the first place. And then the only person who took the stand during the grand jury indictment was the FBI agent who arrested me. Not only did he arrest me, but he beat the living hell out of me. And everything that went down during the arrest is, and there's so many stories to this case that people don't know yet. Never came and talked to me. Nobody's ever questioned me from any aspect of this case, whether it's from the FBI to nobody's questioned me, and it's really bizarre. There was never an investigation.
Do you mind if I record this right now?
Not at all.
Okay.
Not at all.
Okay. Well, I'm going to record it, and so that if anyone wants to listen, I'll try and post it under.
Okay.
Well, I don't know if I should. It's my YouTube ID that.
Right,
anyways.
Right. Yeah, don't tell me. Just.
Some of us targeted people have to. Well, they find us anyways. They're obviously listening and they know everything. So, but go ahead. I'm sorry. Yeah, I mean, that's what happens. They don't want to ask questions because,
Well, they don't want the truth, and it's obvious, the way it's transpired without an investigation, without any, asked me, did you know what you were doing? Or nobody ever asked me anything as far as the legalities of what was going on. And then going to trial, and the prosecutors basically, she had said they had 7 counts and they were 30 years per count, and she wanted every year of it.
Wow.
And it was obvious that was a ploy to scare me, because they really wanted to go against Heather, and they wanted me to to turn. Scare me to think that I was going to get 200. I just felt like that I was doing the right thing, regardless of what they were attempting to do. I was going to stand in the truth, and I was going to do what was right. We just had our second. I'll get cut off here,
Okay.
but I can call you back after a while.
Yeah, I mean. Did you ever receive my, I sent a second letter. I don't know if you received it and the attachments.
Not yet, I haven't. It'll probably be sometime this coming week.
Okay.
We don't get mail on the weekend, so.
Well, that was weird. It just got off.
In 2017, the Knoxville Times-News wrote an article titled, "Well-known sovereign citizen sentenced in federal bank fraud case in Knoxville." Heather Ann Tucci-Jarraf believes her imprisonment will amount to a hostage situation. The former prosecutor turned evangelist for the so-called sovereign citizens movement said as much Tuesday before U.S. District Court Judge Thomas Varlin, who sentenced her to serve 4 years and 9 months in prison for conspiring to launder money. Her sentence will be followed by 2 years of supervised release. A jury in Knoxville found Tucci-Jarraf guilty of the federal charge in February. Authorities say she counseled Randall Beane while he used electronic sleight of hand to rip off a bank to the tune of millions of dollars. Beane also was convicted of conspiracy to launder money as well as wire fraud. His sentencing is set for July 24th. Prosecutors during the trial said Beane, an Air Force veteran working for Advantage Innovations in Knoxville, owed tens of thousands of dollars to the United States Services Automobile Association, an online banking service catering to current and former military personnel. Beane came across a YouTube video shared on social media by Tucci-Jarraf, a licensed lawyer in Washington who worked as a state prosecutor there before she became involved in the sovereign citizen movement. The video claimed Americans can withdraw vast sums of money from secret bank accounts with the Federal Reserve. It recycled discredited tropes popular among sovereign citizens, a loose collection of fringe groups that believe in a mishmash of conspiracy theories. Followers typically deny the legitimacy of government authority and believe reciting the right legal jargon can unlock untold riches and exempt them from the law. Prosecutors said Beane used automatic delays in the banking system of transfers of money from one bank to another to buy certificate of deposits using the Federal Reserve Bank's routing number and a fake checking account number, quickly liquidating the CDs and stashing the money in his USAA accounts. USAA allowed its members to make withdrawals before the transaction was approved and funded. Beane opened $30 million in CDs and cashed in roughly $2 million before USAA discovered the trickery, according to court records. He used some of the money to pay off debts and to buy a $500,000 motorhome, complete with 2 bathrooms, marble floors and countertops, and pop-out side rooms from Buddy Gregg Motorhomes in Farragut last year. Prosecutors said Tucci-Jarraf talked Beane through the fraud every step of the way and that she helped him set up a trust to try and hide the motorhome purchase. A few days after Beane's arrest, Tucci-Jarraf was arrested outside the White House after the FBI got a tip from the Secret Service that she was demanding a meeting with President Donald Trump. In case you weren't familiar with the Harvey Dent situation, back around 2017, he made a video that is still up on YouTube explaining how anyone could use their Social Security number to pay their bills. It appears that nobody has seen or heard from him either. You are welcome to read the article and view the video at the GovBankNotes site below. I'm unsure how Randy was arrested and sentenced to 12 years in prison when all of these people were allegedly using his system and getting away with it. Maybe someone can explain that to me in the comments, please. As you can see from the indictment, the case was sealed and the 4-person signature has been redacted. But why was it sealed? According to Randy, the case was unsealed and the jury 4-person's name was A. Brush, which he said could have been a misspelling of Bush, considering all the other weird coincidences. If you want to view the indictment or the case documents, you can either go to pacer.gov and upload it, or it may be posted later on the cases or blog tab at tennesseecorruption.webs.com. You can access up to $15 per quarter free on Pacer. Each page costs 10 cents to view. The government can seal a case for many reasons, one of them being to hide the identities of undercover agents. Could it be that the indictment was sealed because Heather Tucci happened to be an FBI agent who concealed her identity to cover up the fact that this was all a setup to make an example out of Randall so that others would stop using these methods? Was it a test by the Federal Reserve and Blackrock's Aladdin to test and assess leaks to their suspected corrupt one world central banking system? Randy says he was badly beaten at his arrest. Then there were the lies about the phony warrant they had against him. First, they said it was in Colorado, then South Carolina. Randy confirmed that he did go to South Carolina court, but that he thought the case was closed because he knew the system and the judge could not get him to admit he was his name in all capital letters, but he was in fact a living man. Randy can email, write, and call, so please send your email address, phone number, and address to him if you want a response. His address is Randall Keith Beane, 52505-074, FCI Elkton, Federal Correction Institution, P.O. Box 10, Lisbon, Ohio, 44432. Where has Heather gone? Has she disappeared? Did they kill her? Did she get plastic surgery? Was she a federal agent? In an interview with HATJ in 2017, Heather is recorded saying in the past when people have accessed these so-called Fed accounts, the banks would let people go with 300 to 400 million, and that they were laughing because the banks were holding billions in their name. My question is, how did she know all of this? When Randy contacted Heather, she tells him that the call is being recorded while talking him through the purchases. Why would she feel the need to record unless she was working for the government? Here is a photo comparison of Heather Tucci and Heather Tucci-Jarraf. It is for you to decide if this is the same person, if she lost weight, had plastic surgery, and changed her hair color, if she was impersonating someone all along, or if this is simply a coincidence. Here's a LinkedIn profile for a Heather Tucci. It states she was working as both an FBI agent and with the Health and Human Services Department, I believe from 2009 to 2022, which is during the time Heather Tucci-Jarraf, or Kleisman, was filing these UCC liens. I've recently found that UCC liens are only valid for 5 years. According to the LinkedIn profile, she recently started working as Vice President of M&T Bank in New York. She states, "My work as a federal agent afforded me with 10 years plus of experience conducting fraud and financial investigations for DHHS, Office of the Inspector General. In that capacity, I was able to uncover theft rings which caused losses of up to $100 million, gathered evidence, conducted interviews and interrogations, collaborated with other branches of law enforcement, and examined compliance and regulation matters. I'm adept at protecting and maintaining highly sensitive and confidential information, knowledgeable in criminal and civil fraud investigations. My experience has included investigating money laundering, identity theft, bank fraud, healthcare fraud, securities fraud, and others. Served in the Office of Inspector General, conducted criminal and civil healthcare fraud investigations, interviewed case witnesses and suspects and conduct search and arrest warrants, prepare for trial and testify in court cases, analyze healthcare and financial data, collaborate with state, local, and federal agencies, participate in a mentoring program, provide training including for Electronic Evidence Tracking System, EETS system, and search and evidence procedures, collaborate in annual evidence inventory, perform evidence room inspections. In the Knoxville article, her husband is quoted as saying he and her kids are living in Boston. Why were they living in Boston if she was supposedly in Washington State? Maybe she had 2 homes or more. Maybe she can enlighten us. The only connection I've been able to draw between HHS and this case is that our Social Security numbers are used for medical and Social Security benefits when we retire. Could it be that these accounts being accessed were for the FedNow Central Digital Banking System currency being unleashed? If you're in Canada, you can view the People's Trust if you search Project Jasper. So my question again is, was Heather Tucci a, quote, agent of influence hired by Blackrock spooks to make us all believe the One People's Public Trust was really code for the central bank digital currency? If so, this needs to be researched and exposed. One case where Agent Heather Tucci was involved shows some coincidence as she testifies about how Armenians stole over $100 million from Medicare using Social Security numbers using wire fraud. Whether this is coincidence is for you to decide. Agent Tucci offered background testimony concerning the Medicare program, including about how doctors became a Medicare participating provider and obtained payment from Medicare. Medicare is a government program that administers health care benefits for individuals over the age of 65 and also some individuals who are eligible because they are disabled. The purpose of Medicare is to ensure that beneficiaries receive adequate health care and that participating physicians are paid in a timely manner. In order to enroll in Medicare as a beneficiary, an individual must fill out an enrollment application. Once approved, Medicare then assigns the beneficiary a health insurance claim number, which is essentially their Social Security number, with a letter attached at the end and index that identifies other things about the beneficiary. Doctors use a beneficiary's health insurance claim number to bill Medicare for services provided to the beneficiary. Furthermore, the money laundering component of the Medicare fraud scheme began once Medicare wire transferred payment into a fraudulent clinic's bank account. According to Agent Tucci, the MTO's money laundering activities showed the following pattern. Money would come into a fraudulent clinic's bank account for Medicare or a contractor for Medicare, and then the money would immediately be taken right back out, either via check or transfer to other bank accounts in individuals' names or other clinics that were later identified as fraudulent. Tucci testified that the money was moved quickly because there was only a short-lived time frame before Medicare or a contractor would catch on and shut down the clinic. The participants had to get the payments in and out before law enforcement could seize the funds once the clinic was identified as fraudulent. Judge Thomas Farland's financial disclosure shows he has millions of dollars in various funds and accounts. He is listed as executor of a so-called charitable trust called the Angelos Charitable Trust. Just wondering where the money came from to fund this trust. In case you aren't aware, charitable trusts also allow the wealthy to cash money out and escape tax liability while pretending to be charitable. In addition, the ties to Baker Donelson and the Rothschilds are well established, including Howard Baker's name on the Knoxville federal courthouse, showing his influence. In addition, Varlin feeds at the trough at the University of Tennessee and its political science department, which is also named for the honored 33rd degree Mason, our beloved brother, the dearly departed Senator Howard Baker. There is also a think tank named after Senator Baker named the Baker Center, also in Knoxville, and I encourage you to read up on what they are cooking up there and at the other think tanks so you can be up to date on what Klaus Schwab and the other Satanists have planned. Also detailed on his financial disclosure, he lists investments of MFS, JP Morgan, Wells Fargo, Bank of America, and Blackrock, to name a few. Is it hypocritical for such an allegedly compromised judge to throw the book at Randy? You can decide by visiting courtlistener.com and viewing the disclosure for yourself. Blackrock, the secret company that runs the world. Judge Varlin is heavily vested in Blackrock and has investments in Blackrock-owned iShares, Vanguard, and JP Morgan, a known Rothschild agent. Blackrock and Baker Donelson represent an alleged monopoly on the planet and therefore were in a position to bribe Judge Varlin. The 2020 emergence of COVID-19 threw the U.S. and global economy into a mild recession. As usual, the U.S. government and Federal Reserve stepped in to introduce monetary policies to bring things back to normal in the United States. But this time they brought a friend along, BlackRock. The U.S. government and Federal Reserve asked BlackRock to help stabilize the U.S. financial market. At the same time, the government used BlackRock software to access the financial data they needed. Curiously, the Bank of Canada and the European Union also hired BlackRock for similar purposes. The deal technically made the Bank of Canada, the EU, and the U.S. government clients of BlackRock. It also gave BlackRock access to top-secret financial data it could use for its own benefit, causing critics to call it the fourth arm of the U.S. government. In response, BlackRock said it wouldn't share the data with itself. U.S. law requires the Treasury to pay close attention to banks with over $50 billion in assets. Blackrock controls assets 200 times over that amount, yet the government barely pays any attention to it. Why? Blackrock has legally gotten away with little oversight because it is an asset manager and not a bank. However, that doesn't explain why the government hasn't expanded the law to include asset managers or even created a separate law for them altogether. In fact, this issue once popped up during a Senate hearing, leading Senator Elizabeth Warren to ask Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen if BlackRock wouldn't pose a risk to the U.S. economy if it failed. Yellen cleverly dodged the question, saying the Financial Stability Oversight Council, the organization that regulates banks with over $50 billion in assets, the FSOC, had investigated BlackRock and would continue investigating it. Warren wasn't impressed with the answer. An article titled 10 Shadowy Facts About the Secret Company That Runs the World by Jade Bell states, BlackRock, Fidelity, Vanguard, and State Street are the four horsemen of the global economy. They own the world. They own you. Anytime you act economically, you are transacting with BlackRock. This means they own considerable shares in both Fox and CNN. They own the media and influence bipartisan information flow. They own Big Pharma and are the third largest shareholder in Pfizer. They own food. They own major shares in Pepsi and Coke. They own much of Google and Apple. BlackRock, along with Vanguard and the asset management company State Street, own nearly 90% of all S&P companies. Former investment executive Brian Deese is now President Biden's head of the National Economic Council, and the firm's former global chief investment strategist Michael Pyle is currently Vice President Harris's chief economic advisor. Maybe Biden's economic agenda could be more aptly described as building BlackRock better. Law firm of Baker Donelson's connection to BlackRock includes their clients, their lobbying firm, the Judicial Group, and their court employees. As you can see from their Wikipedia page, Baker has vast connections, including James C. Duff, who has served as executive director since February 2021. He previously served as director of the Administrative Office of the U.S. Courts by appointment of Chief Justice John G. Roberts, Jr. from January 2015 through January 2021. Baker always seems to have people on the inside and has been caught bribing judges. You can find all of the details at TennesseeCorruption.webs.com. From 2000 to 2006, Duff served as the managing partner of the Washington office of Baker Donelson, Bierman, Caldwell, and Berkowitz, which was opened by former Majority Leader Howard Baker, Jr., where he represented the Federal Judges Association before Congress. This is a slide posted by Vogel Newsom, who filed a complaint in federal and international courts against Baker Donelson and their alleged monopoly on the planet. The link is at SlideShare and in the description of this video. Former, current, and past employees include district court judges, United States attorneys, and notably presidents of state and local bar associations. Howard Baker had vast ties to the White House and Tennessee. Tennessee and the South is a major power center for Baker Donelson, who has been caught spying on people and representing amdocs found to record all conversations. In case you thought there was no level Baker hasn't stooped to, here's a lawsuit filed against them by a former tort plaintiff who filed a $13 billion lawsuit accusing Baker Donelson, Bierman, Caldwell, and Berkowitz of conspiring with an insurer and private investigator to spy on her through illegally placed electronic devices. Donated millions over the years for Senator Lamar Alexander's campaign. They're affiliated with the Vanderbilt Law School, University of Tennessee. Howard Baker's name is on the Knoxville courthouse. His son and daughter both sit on the board of the think tank, the Baker Center in Knoxville, which equals a stranglehold on East Tennessee. They and their Masons are tied to many so-called coincidental unfortunate incidents. Their lobbying clients include Hive Blockchain, Northrop Grumman, Lockheed Martin, Thales Defense, Project Hong Kong Trust. If you wonder what that is, so do I. 340B Health, 3M Corporation, Assured Information Security, Ballot Health, and the Bipartisan Commission on Biodefense. Attorneys were on nominating panel 5 for district court judges. Their man Tom Daschle wrote Obamacare while at Baker under the lobbying firm the Daschle Group, which essentially was a $1 trillion payday for their clients like Blue Cross Blue Shield. As previously mentioned, Baker represents J.P. Morgan, which is a known Rothschild agent, according to Andrew Carrington Hitchcock's Synagogue of Satan, available to read at archive.org. You can listen to books or read at Archive. Also, The New World Order Exposed by Victor Thorne is available on audiobook on YouTube, or you can order. For a full list of Baker's current clients, you can go to law360.com, which may charge a fee, or the above website, Tennessee Corruption. After August, the site may be moving. I believe that they wanted to set Randy up in Tennessee. I'm going to try and make a petition unless someone wants to take on the task, and also start a new Facebook group called Free Randall Beane, and I'm hoping to get at least 10,000 signatures by October 31st, 2023. All you need to do is look at the people who have been rioting and stealing lately without getting arrested to see that it's an unfair situation, especially since Randy was allegedly set up. In fact, Judicial Watch has recently caught the FBI targeting and spying on the Catholic Church and has filed a lawsuit due to the FBI failing to release the documents showing they are targeting certain groups of people they deem as against their policies. That is why I feel the FBI needs to be held accountable for targeting those they have incorrectly and discriminatorily labeled as so-called sovereign citizens. You can visit judicialwatch.org/targeting Catholics or do a search to read the lawsuit. Thank you for your support.